this was like the first time I ever heard like marry being said or any like nails, all kind, right? So I'm just still trying to pick up. I'm like, what is she saying to me? So we're playing, and then I just remember Auntie Priscilla, like we're all volleying, they're volleying back and forth with us. I just remember her getting set from somebody, and she just turned towards me, bashed the ball at me, and I'm like, and I didn't know what to do. She goes, "Mary nails, you never pick up the ball." So I went home that night. I go, "Grandma, what is Mary nails?" My grandma goes, "Who told you that?" I go, "Priscilla, she said Mary nails to me when we were playing volleyball." She goes, "Tell her, never mind."
That was your awakening.
That's my awakening, and also that's my drag name.
Mary Nails.
Mary Nails is going to be my drag name.
Oh.
And that moment at the concert when you had your release, you're like, I always wanted to be Mariah.
Carey.
And it ended up being
Mary Nails.
This episode engages Hawaiian worldviews and social contexts and explores themes of sexuality, gender, and erotics. Some language and content may be considered strong or triggering. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Here we are. Welcome to our bonus episode, everyone.
Our bonus episode, the final episode,
Final,
if you will.
final.
The final.
Aloha Lā Kūʻokoʻa. To all of us out there. Here we are. Today's episode is a recap.
Yeah, just a little...
Cap her.
Recap
I don't know her. Yeah. We're recapping all of the episodes that have come before.
And the little momies that
little morsels to munch on.
That we've just strung into this beautiful
Yes. Oh, hey, oi.
Yeah, very that.
Don't sue me on that. Yeah. So, shall we?
Aye.
Maybe for those who've forgotten who we are, though, should we give a little
just a little...
Naiki?
Aye, polole, yeah.
Okay, no hea mai oi, no hea
Aye,
kupuna.
no auka, no ho'i wau, hanai ia wau I leila, hiki ko'u o'o ana. Ko'u mamake wau e kahe aku I ko'u kupuna wahine oi ho'i o Victoria flood. Nana no I hanai mai ia'u, mai ko'u wā kamali'i mai. Nui ino kona ike I pili ana ka noho ana. No leila mana'o wau kupono ke kahe ana aku I aia.
Leina ni.
Ai. No hea mai oi?
No one ula, hono uli, ma ka moku o Eva, ka iaha mauleo. Ua hanai ia wau ma leila a me ka vekiu kuli o of Kona. Here I am, the South Shore gal, if we will.
Period.
Yeah. And we have been introducing all of our guests in these questions about Aina. Just as a reminder, right, that as Kānaka, what's most important is the Aina and kupuna that have shaped you.
That's the matrix that binds us together.
We are not the center of a Kānaka universe. We are just parts of it that make up the whole. And I think sometimes in English, because we're always talking about I, me, my, all the things that are centered to you, starts to, make us think that you are the center of everything. No. Anyway, here we are. Going to recap all of these things. And anything that's popping to you as you've been...
major theme and thread throughout...
Yes, your Mele, if you will.
Yeah, I think a major theme that I've noticed is this orientation to kupuna as being like a wellspring, like for Ike, for ways of knowing and relating to the world. Every guest we've had has reflected on their kupuna as being like a vital source for them, which is really refreshing. It's super grounded in, loina Hawaii, that idea that you sit at your kupuna's feet.
Love that.
And from that place and that perspective, you you see the world in a certain way, right?
Yes.
And you get to experience the world in a certain way through them too, and their interactions. You get to see how your kupuna related to the world, and then being closer to Po, right? And you as a keiki being closer to Po on the other side, right? As you talk about often, coming together and having these moments of halavai and sharing that ike from past, present, and even future. I think that was a magical thread that went through. The other thing that I've noticed is that Kānaka have always resisted things, structures, settler colonialism, things that have tried to form us into white citizens. We have resisted those structures, and we continue to resist those structures. And then also the solidarities that we've had in Hawaii with other people who are suffering at the hands of oppressors, from Hawaii to Palestine. That is something that I saw as being a strong thread throughout. We had No'u mention Palestine. We also had Heoli mention Palestine, and how interconnected our struggles are. Though very different, they're still related in a genealogy of settler colonialism. So that was, I think, a really important aspect of these conversations as well. And to be fearless in sharing, these mana'o and these momi, right?
Yep. It's making me think, this podcast comes at the heels of Chief of War and the conversations around that. So we have Chief of War, and then we have Māhū of War. This is our podcast, Māhū of War. But really, I mean, there's so much, not in a violent way, but violence that we feel, but really being ku'e, and just by merely existing, we put pressure on the system that wants us to make them comfortable. We are everything you don't want us to be, right? And we continue to be that. We're not here to make you comfortable. We're not here to...
We're not here to be palatable.
No, never.
Yeah,
No, never the palate.
Yeah, as Coco talks about too, it's something about being sort of on the fringes.
Yes, we love fringe.
To be on the outside, if you will, to be the queered by the dominant society. There's also a power in that as well. And Kānaka often speak from those places in relation to the non-Kānaka world, which would like to see us be more palatable.
Yes, and no.
And no. No, thank you. I rebuke thee.
Just because you don't like poi does not mean it's healthy and a good food for you.
No,
yeah, right?
No, but
so
you all must read Poi Mouth as well from the special issue.
Mouth. Yes, we talk about that.
So Ākea, let's
shall we?
Let's go into some things and maybe some sort of clarification on a few things from our episode that we had together. You mentioned your dad and your relationship to your dad, but also the things your dad imparted on you, whether they were violent or not, and in some cases, but how he taught you how to code switch, and you spoke about that, that emphasis on the masculine world, but you wanted to clarify something about not glorifying your father and
listeners out there. After we filmed that one, we were driving home, and Kaimi brought that to my attention of like, okay, you want to make sure that you're clear about that, because I think a lot of times we tend to privilege masculinity. We tend to privilege, like, if I can act like a brada, or if I am passing, straight passing, then I am better than someone who presents as feminine. Right?
Yeah.
And that's not at all what I'm saying. For the good or for the bad of whatever my dad chose to shape me in the way that I am today, there is a cost to him being able to, or him like imparting on me this, like, you have to be passing in this Brada world. The cost of that was losing literally like my soul. I feel like my femininity, my queerness, how I feel, and being, at 5 years old, I'm like, Dad, can I get the Little Mermaid Barbie?
Right.
And I'm on Part of Your World to this day. Anyone in my family
still
can know,
does the
I turn the chair around and
he still comes up from
the rock
water.
And I get the water, everything.
Yeah.
Like, Ariel is my thing. So with that, I feel like in my 20s to 30s, I'm still trying to figure that out. And I'm not trying to glorify it in any sense. I'm just saying, for the good, for the bad. I know my dad made choices based off of what he thought would be safe for me. Knowing that his son is, pretty feminine, showing signs of that. And, would I change it? Absolutely. But I can't. And so now I really am trying to focus on unpacking all of that privileging of masculine things and not trying to be a part of a system, right, that I can benefit from the masculine privilege. Like it's just, it's not enough just to like stop it. You have to like unpack all the things that privilege, the mask for mask, the no femme, all of these like hateful, very twisted, just femme-phobic kind of things.
Femme-phobic kind of, there's other ways to be masculine in this world that don't have to be toxic. You know, Kumutai Kavika Tengan writes about this in his work.
Native men remain.
But you know, to all you DL mask for mask bradas out there, the whole thing against femme is tired, but it's tragic. But also think about how you are reproducing colonialism with and reproducing the violences toward the feminine in that reframing and in that framing, the way you frame yourself and carry yourself and interact with other people out there. Just think about the weight you're carrying around. Let it go. Like, you know?
Especially in our conversation about making people comfortable, that's what my dad is about.
Right.
As long as my child, who is queer, but is palatably queer, right? It doesn't upset the balance of the hetero world, then it's okay.
Right.
But if you start to make people uncomfortable, then there's an issue. But we're not here to make people comfortable.
We're not here. That's why he calls me Voldemort, because
because you are unapologetically Māhūi. And he's like, the math is not mathing. But then sees it like you're trying to like convert me. Like, no, I've always been that way too. But at the same time, you know, it's just this thing of like making sure everyone is like comfortable. You'll be more respected if you act a certain way. But what rule, like who's making up the rules?
Right.
And, you know, what was uncomfortable even 10 years ago is not the same.
It's not the same.
So, love you, Dad. Thank you for trying to, you know, bring me safety in this world. But now that I have a Māhūi to find solace in, who are unapologetically Kane, Wahine, Māhū, any kind of gray area, I'm now doing that work. That's on me. I'm not blaming anyone else, but you know what my kuleana is to unpack that and really figure out and ask the questions of, why does X make me uncomfortable? Why would someone presenting feminine or masculine make me uncomfortable about that? It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Why would other people feel uncomfortable if I present more feminine than masculine? That's got nothing to do with me.
And it's so far away from the Ākea of our kupuna. Ke ana o ko lākou noho ana I ka wā kahiko. But you know, things change over time. But you know, I'm just thinking about Laukaʻiʻe and the Pai Māhū who elevate the ahahula. There was no like, oh my gosh, they're so feminine.
Are they presenting as Kane or
Wahine? Like, do they have their laka or do they not have their laka?
No, that's not at all.
None of those things mattered. It was really, central to the conversation we had was the kuleana that they had to uplift and to
make it a party.
Make it le'a.
Yes.
And the cool thing about that mo'olelo is the way they were described. They were compared to like a shadow moving in and out of the space. No gender. They were compared, their voices were compared to like a leo nahe nahe, but then the vavalo of the ocean coming in. No gender, but you know, these essences that kind of made their being complex and magical and all that kind of stuff.
Appears, and as soon as it appears.
And you can just hear them chanting going up into the mountains, and their voice carries, but it's, you know, it's still that way today with the you know, going up, you know, after the paina, you know, the hayas back and forth.
All the hayas. So that's what I wanted to clarify, is that we really have to stop privileging the cis performance, right, to be passing in this system that we're trying to unpack.
Right.
You actually are part of the issue if you're not seeing how you contribute to that. Even in Kānaka spaces, we can still create these kind of colonial violences.
Yeah. Kānaka spaces, and then also the spaces we live in because of our proximity to colonialism. We're constantly living in these places where these like haole ways of thinking about the world impact us and affect us in nuanced and not so nuanced ways, right? Just thinking about like Grindr and, you know, like
but that is a microcosm, basically ecology even of where all those violences are.
Yeah.
Just because you say, oh, it's my preference, right? You need to, I think, have an articulation of why that's even a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Why would me being with a feminine or masculine presenting person give me more or less, right? I think people get tied up with that.
They
So,
do. They
the
do.
work.
It's tired.
It's tired.
Just put her
She's
to sleep.
luhi.
She's luhi down.
Luhi loa.
Luhi lalo. Yeah.
All right. So
Let's get into the momies,
yes,
shall we?
let's go to our Ipole Momi. And part of that is me asking you, since you were mainly the host,
Okay.
of what you took away from each of our episodes. Let's start with our trio, our triage, if we will, which was Dr. Tati, Sammy and Felicia, our Pacifica, and talking about the leadership of Māhū and MVP FAF. Anything there?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, amidst the humor of, Coco and Tati
all the
vibing,
witty
the witty
ho'opapa.
ho'opapa going on, there were these momies that they dropped just about how their orientation to their kupuna really shaped the way they do things in the daily life, right? Which is something we don't think about often. We often think Coco, like her time in performance spaces, in the avant-garde, in the arts.
Yeah. And her as a grandmother herself.
But those spaces are just a part of Coco, but really like her kahua was like, being in paniolo spaces and doing these real uchibe kind things,
Which you wouldn't think, right?
Which you wouldn't think, but Coco was
It's complex.
Yeah, and Tati, being raised in a really like a powerful wahine space,
Yes.
and also like having Māhū to look up to, but then her Māhū-ness being something that is that she has found celebration in, and even like she's been able to relate with her family from that place, even though things have been difficult historically within the family to address that, and then all of their mana'o about creating community, and then also like honoring the genealogy that we have to each other and to this place as being the thing. The genealogy is the thing that connects us, and that nobody can ever tell us we don't belong.
Never.
In this human world, right? It's the kupuna that have made the choices so that we can be here today. And it is that pilina through the mo'okuauhau that connect us back to Po.
Yep.
And so thinking about how we are just a projection and a breath, if you will, from Po, like an expression of Po in some way, shape, or form. Let that be the guiding mana'o that helps us with our inspiration, with how we relate to each other. Darkness as being something to be celebrated. All of those things came up during our conversation. Yeah, that was definitely a big thing that stood. Those are a few big things that stood out.
I would like to share a little bit what I took from Kumihina.
Yeah,
in your
please do.
episode. So, again, thinking about Po, what I really appreciate about your oral history in the issue is we get to see Kumuhina beyond the political figure mask, beyond the tough aloha aina. It's just you see her and she's there and her dress to the nines and all the things.
Yeah,
but
putting Monaco to shame in her designs.
Manako.
Manako.
Actually, yeah. But there was really a softness, and she's such a love bug.
Kumuhina is a love bug. She loves her people, but Hina knows better than anyone what the kuleana of care means and how integral it is in our lahui. And she's unapologetically comes from that place, but it's a side that we don't get to see. Nope. That Hina isn't just this political figure and this lahui leader. She's also a caregiver, and the eha and also the aloha that comes from that place. It allows us to see the more vulnerable side, which she's unapologetic about as well. I just really appreciated that, someone as with her complexity, being able to kind of shapeshift into many different places. And we talk about in the oral history that some kane were major role models in her upbringing, as well as wahine. And you see that in her ano, she's able to pull from all of that you know,
Yes.
from the Kane and Wahine energies in specific places that energy is needed.
Doesn't cancel each other out.
Doesn't cancel each other out. It's something that she malamas both sides of those things. That's
Yes.
part of her being. So I thought that was really, really cool. And then likening her story and having the idea of the Paiopua and the cloud and Ho'ailona kind of support or gird the story, I think also asks us to dig deeper into our Ike Hawaii in order to understand, you know, one another.
Yes.
That we can, it's not just an oral history, but it's also looking at how our kupuna viewed the world and prophesized the world. We can see alignments with Hina's story and these cloud formations that are sort of foundational to how the story plays out. Yeah.
Something that I just saw the other day was Mr. Kaʻiminaʻauao talking about Haina Kolo.
Oh yeah.
So in the Mo'olelo, he was talking about how the uniki process, or at least the learning the hula, was you first learned the kuhilima, and everything else, the feet come after, but they were bound basically. If you're learning this, the feet are pa'a, and if you're learning the feet, then the kino is pa'a, the torso part, so that you're not like, the word was wa'uali. Yeah, and so in the explanation of that, there wasn't this sense of like Kane and Wahine, where if you're a Kane, you have to present motions in a certain way, or with Wahine, you have to be flowery and soft.
Right.
So he was saying in the interview that perhaps at that time for kupuna, it wasn't so pa'a on like how you either choose to be Kane, hard, or you choose to be soft. Wahine, right? That's kind of our contemporary understandings of that.
Aye.
And all of the episodes, I think, pull on this idea that in Māhū world, or just being Kānaka in general, it's a complex system that is not mutually exclusive, that I can be with a Kane and also birth children, right? I can be this, where some people are Christian, but also pull from Omakua. There's really not a sense of like, if I choose this, and I can't do any of the other options there.
No.
But a lot of times there's such complex, like we see in the we were saying one of the kupuna from Kaleo Hawaii was talking about kuahu for each akua. Was that were we talking about that? One had one for the kuahu hula, and then one had the
that was the interview I did at Hula Preservation Society.
Oh yeah. Oh, and Auntie was talking
And
about
Auntie
that.
Poina ya ukona ino.
Auntie Moana.
Auntie Moana.
Yeah.
Sure, oi.
Yes.
Auntie Moana Kalamai. Yeah, we talked about how she was a healer, right? She was a mea la'au lapa'au, but she worked on spiritual things, right? Like, you know, if the spirit is attached.
Auntie Moana was telling
the story about growing up, and she went to this hale where the kupuna in there had a kuahu. For the gods, and in the same room had an effigy of Mary holding baby Jesus.
Right.
And the two didn't contradict each other. They had specific purposes.
Right.
And they were used in that way. That is, I think, how we also think about things like, you know, our relationship to Kane and Wahine energies.
Absolutely.
Is that they don't have to be these separate things that exist in separate spaces.
No.
They can be in the same space, but it is how you interact with them, and, you know, the kuleana that is at hand that not prioritizes but works with one energy over the other.
Huki palai, girl. Just
hooky down. I thought that was so hoi hoi, and I've heard multiple stories of this where Kānaka hold these Christian values as well as these pagana sort of kaintains, you know, on each side of themselves.
Yes.
And they work with both energies for certain kuleana. Sometimes the two get collided together. We've seen that as well in certain mo'olelo, right, where the Christian God is then pulled into these origin stories, and then boom, you have this mo'olelo that is a mixture of the both.
Yeah, one like being Kanaloa is the devil versus Ikane Ku and Lono.
There's like Mo'okuauhau Elua Namako Keahi. There's Christian elements in that. There's the Kumuhonua traditions as well.
But in your oral history, that's very clear that Kumuhina pulls easily from both worlds. Like
From all
I'm
the
this,
worlds,
I am pule, I am this and that, and there's no sense of like it has to compete with each other.
No, she pulls her pule from her grandfather, who was, a Christian man, and then she pulls on Mea Hawaii from all of her teachings in school and with her multiple kumu, and all of those things make Hina this manafo being.
All the clouds come to the pali and
Laumania and adorn her, and we're so grateful for her mana.
Okay, let's move.
Yeah, let's move.
Kamalani, our dear Kamalani.
Kamalani's conversation. Kamalani, I love Kamalani because, she's
Levalani.
She's Levalani. She always speaks in a very lofty way, very intellectually driven.
The complex.
Kamalani has an insane intellectual tradition.
Absolutely.
And is somebody that we always see reading, like waiting for us at the restaurant. Mary is over there reading about Kamalani. She's like,
with her nose stuck in a book.
Yeah,
it's very
that. Yes. And so Kamalani comes from this really intense but like powerful and really diverse intellectual, foundation.
All
the intelligentsia she pulls from is ova. And with Kamalani's strong foundation in extremely strong foundation in Olelo Hawaii and Mo'olelo, particularly the Mo'olelo of Kamiki. And then Kamalani's research and diving into Western theories, political theories.
All the kind.
Just makes for a very interesting conversation that I had to really exercise my mind because I was like, hopefully she doesn't go over the moon where I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, she's on a pie that we're like, hey.
Yeah, sometimes, but I was like, I was proud of myself. I was
I was
there. I was there with Kamalani.
Something that I appreciate was the conversation about economies of kuleana.
Yeah.
That what drives the Lāhui forward is kuleana. Not identity, not monetary value, not the gold chain, the Rolls Royce, the how much you make.
The lifted Yoda.
No, it's really what is your kuleana to your people, and that is what...
Oe kamea nui.
Yeah, kamea, or Kūkā Kīkī universe, really.
Right, love Kūkā Kīkī universe.
Kūkā Kīkī universe was my Twitter handle.
Right.
And so, yeah, I feel like I'm going to have to listen to that one 3 times just to even get a sense of what the heck.
Yeah.
But with Mo'olelo Ka'au and what Heoli was talking about, the secret to how we need to... Lama Pilina is in the Mo'olelo.
Yes.
Kamiki is an example of that.
That also, Hawaiians, our kupuna, always negotiated pilina.
Yes.
It wasn't pilina, and kauha isn't just this olelo that you place over somebody and that's
and you go
it.
Do that. Yeah.
Olelo kauha is kind of the intent being shared, but then that intent can also then be redacted based off of the needs of other people in that pilina. So the pilina isn't something that is just this is just how it's going to be, but it's something that can be negotiated, and that's where consent comes into play, which is a really big part, I think, a missing part of our conversations today, particularly with violences against wahine and māhū, where consent is ignored. This, need for us to then renegotiate these pilina that we have with each other, which I think is...
An example that you taught me was with Kiha Pi'ilani, and when he meets Kolea Moku, and has to ask his wahine if it's appropriate for him to be
have this pilina with
Kolea Moku.
Kolea Moku is his wahine. He has to have this. He wants his pilina with kumaka.
No. Kolea Moku is the one in Hana, the surfer chick.
Kolea Moku
from Hana.
Oh yeah. Paha kalamai.
She's a young chipper thing.
Oh yeah. So in order to have that pilina, though,
he has to ask
his wahine pono'i.
Yes.
And she understands that for the betterment of what he's trying to do, kuikamoku,
yes,
that pilina is acceptable, and she allows him to therefore have that pilina.
And she says, "You can stay with me the day, but
at night you're going do what you need to do.
Over here.
But you come back. You gotta come back during the day."
And that's the critical point, I think, where a lot of guys are like, native love, and I'm just trying to practice kupuna kind things. Be literate in the mo'olelo.
Right.
Have your actual education.
Because for Kānaka, ethical non-monogamy has always been ethical.
Ethical.
In that
it's not moi vale.
It's not moi vale, moi aku moi mai.
No.
Me ka ole o ka no'ono'o ana I piliana I na Kānaka like ole I loko ko kaiaulu.
Kuleana.
Kuleana is the center, and then also this exchange
Yes.
and
The framework
terms and
behind-
conditions
yes,
to your
absolutely.
pilina.
Read the fine print.
Read the fine print,
Thank
the fine
you.
olelo.
Period.
Yeah.
The olelo huna huna.
Yes. So that was ova. And then
Okay.
we had kamakani and no'u.
Oh wow. Yeah, I missed this one, so you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
In less than a minute.
In less than a minute. Okay, boom. Kamakani is really thinking through this idea of brackish water as being
Love that.
a place that that he can generate sort of ike and inspiration about existing and relating in this world.
In this muli vai where it's not kai, it's not vai.
Vai, but it's
Something
Waikai,
different. Yeah,
and
waikai.
also the opacity or the sort of, which we talked about briefly off camera, this idea of opacity as being a generative space where you're not just ahuvale, but you're also sitting in the mystery
Yeah,
as well.
totally.
And so, an other that is not unveiled necessarily, but the veil is what makes someone special, magical,
Totally.
unique, and all of those characteristics being a big part of it. Then No'u really got into the liberation of Wahine and also the liberation of peoples from Hawaii to Palestine. But particularly, she pulled on Haunani K Trask because that's a part of her Mo'okuauhau Ike, and Haunani's work, which was really isolating at times for Kumu Haunani, but the resonance of that power still, illuminates multiple paths for us as Kānaka in this time. And the two of them spoke about poetry and how they use poetry, how they structure poetry, but how poetry is really an artistic tool that can be used as an artistic tool. And No'u said something along the lines of, it needs to go along with politics. Otherwise, if it sits on its own, it's just that. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But what does it do, right? That was the question. What do these pieces do? And she always brought up that as poets, you really need to know what the heck you're saying when you're writing your piece down. It is not just putting pretty words together, but it has to have that unknown. And then we also talked about haku mele a little bit, and how pulling from their own genealogies that have informed the way they write, how do they therefore show signs of that genealogy in their work? So No'u talked a little bit about how she pulled from Haunani K's work, and you can see that clear genealogy in her work. I thought that was fabulous.
It reminds me of Haunani K's one of her speeches of talking about that culture cannot be ornamental.
It must be political.
Yep. And even with poetry, right, where you think that it's something artistic and ooh, pretty, but even the politics embedded within their work, it's whoa.
Right. No'u's writing to Wahine in her work, and she wants Wahine to be, in love themselves, love where they come from, and enjoy the pilina that they carry, particularly queer Wahine of color who have historically been ostracized, and have fallen victim to incredible violences, but that she's also saying, but it's not just about the violences that they've experienced. It's also about the ho'olula hui aspect of it being slightly reproductive, as Kumu Haunani K talks about, and then creating from that place and speaking to others who have been historically on the other end on the shitty end of this this world and structures of violence, right? The incredible creations that come from people with that experience, that it's incredible. Then we went on to Lani. Lani's super fun and sassy. Stephanie Nohelani Tevez, incredible scholar who wrote Define Indigeneity, and just recently came out with a book which we share in the episode, where she interviews Kupuna, Māhū, and LGBTQIA plus identifying Kupuna, and she spoke about her work in this special issue looking at laws that sort of reproduce settler colonial structures that's again centered the white citizen as being, you know, the norm,
The it girl.
And those laws come, you know, in the Hawaiian Kingdom era, moving into perhaps the provisional government, the territory, and then into statehood. We looked at how those laws regulated bodies, bodies in relation, particularly women. We talked about Hawaii's long history of prostitution and the reasons behind that here, or sex work and the reasons behind that. It was just very illuminating as to the complexity of our history in relation to sex, in relation to gender, and in relation to how our kupuna expressed sex and gender, and how we see that change and shift over time through these laws. And then Lenny rephrased again that it's important to recognize that our understandings of māhū have also changed. And that is also really important, that our understanding of māhū today is just as important as also reconstructing and also revisiting ancestral ways of knowing māhū.
I like that.
Yeah, I thought that was really important. And then Mele. Were you there for Mele Arvin's?
I wasn't, but what I really take from her paper, I guess maybe you guys can speak to that, is how the Kawailua school and other reformatory schools used ancestral ways as punishment to continue the severance of young opio. For example, right, they would make the keiki go and tend lo'i and lokoi'a as punishment, right? When you add a negative spin onto doing what your kupuna do as a that's going to be like, I don't want to do that.
As a punishment in a really twisted way, connecting to something like the lo'i kalo, and then of course a kupuna like halua, right? But turning that into a punishment is super twisted.
And then the money they make from what they harvest, they don't get that either. So that's another twist. And then for the wahine, forcing them to put on mu'umu'u, or holoku, right? And then to cut their hair short, again, is like a li'i wahine would have their hair short.
Li'i wahine would have their hair short.
And li'i wahine would be able to afford beautiful, gowns. So again, this idea that I'm going to punish you for being like your kupuna is just so twisted.
It's icky.
Right, but look at, how effective that was in trying to reform people into what you're saying, that white settler citizen of like, you need to be like us, therefore I'm going to
reform you
and spin all of the kupuna things to make it feel like
exactly gross. And then another big gem that are really important aspect, I wouldn't say it's a gem because it was really heavy, that was a very heavy episode, was that comparing it to the boarding schools on the continent is kind of like you can't. Like there are things that are related. There are sort of systems or settler colonial structures at play for sure, but the two have carry out very different legacies. Like the reformatory schools in Hawaii versus the boarding schools and the violences that went on at these boarding schools. Like you can't equate the two, but there's definitely a connection there, and she just wanted to make that clear. Like there are connections, but it's super complex and super lengthy that we just didn't have enough time to talk about it on the podcast. I know that others think about this.
I'm sure a lot of our
often, and her articulation, I think you got to go back and listen to it, but her articulation was really clear. I really appreciated that about Mele's work. Another thing is just a question I had is even going back to the lo'i kalo being a form of punishment. I wonder if the keiki also felt like joy in those spaces as well. It's punishment, but haha, you thought, right?
Right?
I get to go out and work in the lo'i, and they thought it was punishment, but maybe the opio thought differently. Perhaps, right? And just little moments wondering and speculating if joy was, where joy was found, really, and how Hawaiians resisted our and also Mele's familial connection to these reformatory schools. She talked about members of her own ohana, I think her great-grandmother, and also the co-writer Eliana, also her kupuna, also being in these reformatory schools. That there's a pilina ohana to this mo'olelo, which is super, it feels like they're the right people to tell the story. Totally. Yeah. And then Ākea and Heoli and Tilena Ala.
Yep. So Heoli and I are the co-editors. I won't belabor what we talked about. You can go watch the episode. But what I really took away was, again, with Kumahina, we got to see Heoli's vulnerability too. In finding hopoi, thanks to Dr. Kame'elehiva, finding a kipuka for Heoli to feel safety in. That was in the mo'olelo, which I never knew that. I know she talked a little bit about that in her book, but it's, again, to see, for example, with Hanonike being at the front line and not knowing how to malama her, Heoli now being a rising Aloha Aina leader in the front lines, because of her work, really having that conversation of the people in the front lines need people in the back to take care of them so that they can do the work that they do, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
Right? There's kuleana, economies of kuleana, that just because you're not in the front line doesn't mean you're not doing activism.
Right.
You are very much doing activism and everyday stuff, but the people who are in the front doing the risky work, right?
We need to malama them.
We do. Because they are malamaing us who are not able to be at the front.
Yeah.
Right?
She talked about how those leaders in the 90s, a lot of them, have been unwell in many ways. And that is a reflection of that eha, right? Yes. And all of the eha that they carried, how kaumaha that was, so recognizing that as people, as members of the Lāhui, if you have pilina to these people, malama them, like care for them, feed their soul, like mahalo them, lomi them, whatever they need, just give them that aloha back.
Yeah, how they want to be malama.
Of course, consent.
Yeah,
don't just go up and go malama kumuhina.
And be like, I'm going to help you.
Yeah, could you imagine? Don't do that.
And then with Auntie Lei being someone who was, going to school at the time and the echoes of the Renaissance, having kumu that are on the front lines, and having also a son who's around, Heoli's age, and being a makua and raising them, but not trying to indoctrinate them. Like, there's just so much there to capture what Aloha Aina looked like then and now, and even in the last 5 years, has just skyrocketed of what that looks like. And also doing the work to making sure that Wahine have always led these movements, and now that they take the front stage in 2020s again, right? That we are doing the work as a Lāhui to let them do what they got to do.
Absolutely. Auntie Lena Ala's ike about how she raised her keiki, but how we should really consider thinking about raising our keiki. Just giving them foundational tools, but not shoving them into boxes or into into being like aloha aina. Like let them see the ethics themselves and let them find it. And I trust her because she literally hanaid Kawila Mahi, who's like a total badass aloha aina leader, an ally, and a great friend. But Kawila's work is also really empowering, groundbreaking, and powerful. And that's her mamo. Like that is her keiki. And then also Kawila's daughter as well, who is also reflecting a lot of values of aloha aina and just that kui ke kuleana. And so that was really maikai and magical to be able to speak to her from her unique perspective as the photographer during the 90s, that capturing all of that, and then her work as a poet as well.
I find that Kona Ike to be very valuable as, we don't want to shove things, right? We don't want to give any choices. And it's the same way where I think in terms of people who bash like missionary work, right? Or that kind of like proselytize and just kind of like make sure you're doing this. Like we can also do the same kind of work if we don't give our keiki the choice to find it themselves, right? So we don't want to be doing the same kind of work that we complain about, and be active in making sure that our keiki are educated and have the whole smorgasbord of ike, and let them taste it and feel it out, and not just like, this is the only thing you're going to do, this is the right way. No, because that's where it gets lost. Hauka ike.
Yeah. And Lena Ala reminded us that the older generations were, and along with Ākea, with you in that conversation, were the ones who gave us the foundation to have these conversations. I'm thinking of our Māhū elders who paved the way for us to be able to just even talk about Māhū without it being considered a slur.
Right.
Is like a generative space. Right. But also our leaders in the Lāhui who have just paved the way, and we sometimes take them for granted, being in this in our kulana now, and how we relate to our history and stuff like that. So that was my ka'i.
There's just
all of the
bombs everywhere.
Ike bombs. I'm just
thank
so
you.
yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
go.
No.
I'm just there's just so much, and I feel like people are gonna have to listen to these episodes, and we're recapping it, not to like again just say whatever they're saying, but for people who might just want a little sample platter.
Yeah, just a little sample platter.
The Costco free sample kind of
Then you go back and you get the 2 scoop rice,
Pepe,
the 2 patties,
with
with
each
extra
episode.
gravy. Yes. We love our plate lunch. Plate lunch.
Anyway, so there's a lot to unpack here in our wonderful pages of our podcast. And how we end our episodes is talking about little maybe hopes and dreams or little momi. Anything you want people to get from this?
I think a major thing, what I really want the Lāhui to get from this podcast, simply just access to these incredible community members and thinkers, and an opportunity to kind of sit with these ideas. But I really want our Lāhui to start, just really embracing themselves as Kānaka, and their relationship to their aina as being, and their mo'okuauhau as being something foundational that literally gives life to them, that transforms them into the Kānaka that they are, and to be, I guess, cognizant as to how colonial ways of being and thinking and knowing the world have infiltrated all of our lives, and how this podcast is just a part of doing the work of unmooring ourselves from destructive ways of thinking and being, and recentering in oiwi balance to our life.
Totally.
Yeah. What about you, Ākea?
Same. I feel like this is just one step to unpack all of the things that we're trying to, so we can make space for actual things that are healthy to us. And I think in doing the work to, one, create a safe space for people to just listen and learn, also to realize why we feel uncomfortable about the things we do, right? That have nothing to do with us. How someone appears, their kuleana that's not related to you. Shout out to people in my family who have been really great allies, and some not so much. I really want people to be able to sit in their discomfort, because that's where the lesson is, and that's where the growth is.
That's where the growth happens.
But where a lot of people are not willing to. And I encourage each of you listening to find what makes you uncomfortable and to sit in that and really do the work to figure out, why do I feel XYZ when I see this? And that's part of that. And it's painful. La'o is painful. Healing is not this like joyous, fun thing.
And as you always say, aloha is not just butterflies. Aloha is sore.
Aloha is sore. It's o'olea. It's strict. It's tough. It can be soft at times.
And joyous.
And celebratory. But this is aloha is a la'au. And when you need it, sometimes it burns. Sometimes it stings. Sometimes you have to just ho'ona.
Literally.
And with that, I hope that this podcast is la'au for people.
Aye.
And to end our episode, we have a special guest.
And to end the season, really, we have a special guest.
Yes, that's going to join us. And I'm going to give you my clipboard here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take that from you.
And to join us today, we have our great friend, Izik, to join us and talk about the māhū behind the Mele. And where this person comes from, and to serenade us for the end of time. Okay, here we are. Welcome. The final isms of Kūkā Kīkī.
Yeah.
And we have our wonderful hoa, Izik, to talk to us about your own upbringing and your exciting album release of Kōwā. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Izik.
Here we are.
Mahalo.
Let's Kūkā, let's Kiki,
Yeah.
let's Kaka, and all the things.
Yeah, of course we have to be Niele first and ask you questions.
Yes.
I love you,
So, Always.
Always.
Nele lalo. Maha oi, all to the things.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your aina kupuna, your aina hanau, where you come from? And yeah, we have a wonderful story that we share with Izik. We'll get to after.
Yeah.
When we get to Ho'olihua,
Yes.
I'll bring that up. So tell us a little bit about
Yeah, so I grew up, well, first of all, I was born in Utah.
Utah.
You guys got the
Those
exclusive
Utes.
on that. I didn't tell anybody that.
We won't share.
Okay, that's a secret. Okay?
Yeah, got it. Those Utes.
My mom was going to school up there when she got pregnant with me, and so then afterwards she moved back home. My grandmother was living in Kānaka at the time. She was working on Molokaʻi, so I grew up on Molokaʻi and Oahu. My family is, a lot of them are all from Laie Kahuku side, and then I have like Samoan ancestry, and then also Mexican as well, so Latino.
Oh, you're worldly.
Worldly, global.
Global entry.
Global.
Well.
Yeah. not that global.
Yeah, no. TSA pre-check only. Yes, got it.
Yeah, so I grew up all over. I grew up on Oahu. I grew up in Manoa, Waimanalo. Spent a lot of my summers up in Laie and Kahuku, and then also on Molokaʻi as well. And my grandma adopted me when I was young, so I went to go live with her in Kānaka. And she was working out there at Keawanui. Kamehameha schools at the time had an alternative learning program for the youth that were having, challenges in the typical school system at Molokaʻi High School. So they gave the students an alternative learning program out there, and so they had their curriculum that they had to learn, but then also were able to go out and work in the fish pond and go work with all the plants and taking care of the land out there on the east end side.
And it's still happening
Oh
there.
yeah. I think it's under different. There's definitely different caretakers.
I know Momona, I believe.
Yeah.
On one
Uncle Walter.
Uncle Walter Ma, and then Kamehameha schools, I believe.
So Uncle Walter was still working with my grandmother, I believe. Well, it depends which Uncle Walter we're talking about.
Really?
Okay.
Other Walter.
Other Walter.
Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Walter. But he was also, my grandmother would also work with him too. But she was working a lot with Auntie Colette Machado.
Oh, wow.
So we did. I was out there for a long time, and then came back over here, and I did high school out here.
Wow.
Yeah. So I grew up all over, and now we live out in Kapolei. Kapolei.
Homestead.
On Kaupea. So we've been out there for a long time now. Since
She's a homestead girl.
She is. Pull up the house.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, yes, actually.
So that's where our connection to Molokaʻi, I don't want to offend anyone,
of course not.
But so 2 years ago, we went there for Fairy Monarch and stayed at Keawanui. And we've come to find out that there's such a strong pai māhū there that Auntie Mele, shout out to Auntie Mele, who drives the school buses for all the kids. We have Tori Maliu, who is the post person. And then his sister, Auntie Priscilla.
Auntie Priscilla.
Can you tell us your introduction to this?
Auntie Moana was the OG bus driver.
Yes.
So we used to all catch bus from her. I remember always catching bus in the mornings to go to school and listen to KPOA with Alaka'i. But summertime, my grandma still had to work, but I was out of school. So I remember the first summer I was just a little bit too, because we were only third grade kind of. My grandma's like, yeah, go ride your bike all over the place, ride for miles kind of. All over the place. But then I think I kind of blew it that summer, so she was like, "You guys got to go summer fun or something." You kind of just be traveling all over the place.
Too much fun.
Yeah. We would go swim at the wharf and all that stuff. So, but the first summer we did summer fun with Auntie Moana, Auntie Priscilla, and every morning before everything would start, while the kids were all coming, we'd all be in this circle playing volleyball with all Auntie Moana, all the māhū that were watching us.
True to the Māhūi, yes, volleyball.
Yeah, yes. And they were not taking it easy on us. They were bashing us. at like 7:30 in the morning. So my very first, like, this was like the first time I ever heard like Mary being said or any like
Oh, the
nails,
Māhūi,
right?
yes.
So I'm still trying to pick up on like what is she saying to me? So we're playing, and then I just remember Auntie Priscilla, like, we're all volleying, they're volleying back and forth with us. I just remember her getting set from somebody, and she just turned towards me, bashed the ball at me, and I'm like, and I didn't know what to do. She goes, "Mary Nails, you never pick up the ball." So I went home that night. I go, "Grandma, what is Mary Nails?" My grandma goes, "Who told you that?" I go, "Priscilla, she said Mary Nails to me when we were playing volleyball." She goes, "Tell her, never mind."
That was your awakening.
That's my awakening, and also that's my drag name. If I ever get to drag, Mary Nails is going to be my drag name.
And that moment at the concert when you had your release, you're like, I always wanted to be
Mariah Carey.
And it ended up being
Mary Nails. It's not Mariah Carey. I try to give what I can, but it's Mary Nails
Mary
now.
Nails.
Mele Kale.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah.
And
so
speaking of your album release, we got to go and it was incredible. I mean, like the amount of community that came out and
so loved.
So loved Izik's music and Izik so loved, and just it was just an amazing time. Everyone was jamming, everyone had their fans out, they were
thank
clapping.
you for the blue fans.
Yes.
She was hot.
But this album you said has been in the making for like 5 years now. Yeah. I just if you can just share a little bit about who perhaps you wrote the album for, if it was you or if it was your community, and what led to Kōwā's inception and birth, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the album is not necessarily about one person. It's definitely about all of my life experiences, and I wanted to write about the past 5 years because 2020 obviously was such a huge shift for everybody. I feel like everybody got pushed onto a different path, a different timeline, and so Kōwā really is about all the spaces that were carved out by 2020. I was on a different path in 2019. I wanted different things. I was listening to different music. I was being inspired and fed by different waters. And then 2020 happened, and I that was the first time in my life I was told not to work, right? Stay home, don't work. Everyone stay home, right? And I've always had a job since I was like 7th, 8th grade, right? Doing paper routes. And then in high school, I was working at different like Subway, and like I had different jobs. So I've always been working. That's a value that was instilled into me by my grandparents. It's just the value of always working. And gaining your autonomy through working, and, making your own money and doing all your things, calling your own shots. And so this album was really inspired by the past 5 years and how I was pushed onto a different path. I got back in the water. I was surfing every day. Every time I tried to do something for music, like I was talking about with you folks earlier, I felt like it was always a block. There was always something stopping me from doing more original music, working on another album. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to gig, make my money, travel, eat.
Yes, muncher.
But mostly just spending time in the ocean. And like a lot of the times it was just being in the water, having conversations with people like my friend Kamali. And like for hours I remember in the beginning, 2020, like we would go surf in Waikiki because it was empty. We would be there for like 5-6 hours in the water and not even care about how like thirsty we were, hungry or anything. It was just to be able to see Waikiki so empty and like see so many things come back to life. Like we were watching Eva diving in the water, eating, fishing. Like we saw all this kind of animals like in the ocean, where I feel like you don't see that in Waikiki, But
the
it was
creatures are the tourists.
And so that's basically how the past 5 years of my life changed everything for me. It was a huge shift, and so 2024 I saw this little window open up for me to start doing music again, or my own music, and start writing again. And so I just felt like, okay, I see the window, so I'm going to try open the window little by little. And then at the end of 2024 I was able to kind of walk through that window, and really, really get into working on the album. And then I had the goal of going to Aotearoa to record with my friend Brandon Haru. And we just, once I started that, everything started to fall into place.
Yep.
And so it felt like, okay, I'm glad I listened, and I'm glad that I took those signs to slow down and stop and just keep moving, you know?
Yeah, nice.
So Kōwā is really about that. It's all those songs are about the past 5 years of my life. I don't have any song that's written before 2020. It's all, all of it is about everything that I was experiencing in the water, spending time talking to people, traveling, all that stuff. So those are huge themes in my album. I don't really have like love song. Maybe Out of Touch is like the most relationship one. But for the most part, it's all about my experiences. I wanted to alchemize those experiences and offer those as medicine to my fans and people that have been following me for a long time, but then also as a way to offer up to my community the medicine to heal. Because 2020 it moved so fast, and it was so traumatic that I feel like nobody really had time to process.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. I feel like this year is like the first year where I really feel like some kind of normalcy.
Yeah.
I feel like the past 5 years have just been like
Wild.
Okay,
Who are we?
I guess.
Yeah.
Like, let's just keep moving. What's happening?
I'm still in 2020, honestly.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, we're so lucky today because we have Izik here who will play us just He Many Mai a little bit, you know, a mele that really speaks to me. But if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about the mele you're going to play, and then maybe give us a little taste, if you will.
A taste, a morsel. Yes.
So this one is Until the End of Time. I call this Pikake Part 2.
Okay.
So I released Pikake in February, and that was a song that I wrote as part of an installation for Shangri-La's, I guess, like art exhibit. I don't know what you call
That's
it.
when I first heard Waves too.
Yes.
Love that one. Yeah.
I wrote Pikake and Waves at the same time I was surfing, and it was the night before the installation was going to be recorded, and I had all these other songs that I wrote for it. But I was surfing that evening, and I just heard these little melodies creeping in, and I was like, oh, I think these are the songs. So I went home and wrote the song the night before the installation.
Wow.
I just heard it in my head, and I was like, yeah, that's it.
When it comes, you just gotta go,
That's how a lot of the songs come for me. It's at the last minute.
That's incredible.
The more I plan, the more I'm like, I guess this is an okay song.
There's no inspiration.
No.
Yeah.
But then I feel like it's that immediacy of having to get something done that really inspires me.
Absolutely.
ADHD for us.
Yeah. Period. So anyways, I wrote Pikake as a love song for myself. The theme for that installation was connection. And I wanted to talk about the connections that I was making, like the different pathways to connections that I was making over the past 3 years, whenever I wrote Pikake, and talking about how the ocean was helping me to connect to myself, and not just the ocean, but like nature in general, all the ways that I'm seeing myself in nature, like how I relate to nature, all the similarities that I see between the ocean and myself. And so I wanted to write a love song to myself, because I felt like there's so many beautiful love songs to other people, but I wanted to write a love song to myself and kind of just honor all the things that make me happy and all the ways that I kind of like self-soothe and comfort myself. And so Pikake is one of those. I love randomly just buying a Pikake lei and just putting it next to my bed, and that way when I wake up in the morning, I smell Pikake first thing in the morning.
Pikake is beautiful.
Mahalo.
Yeah.
So I wrote that and then released it in February while I was in Aotearoa, and then I had all these parents writing to me and saying, oh, I sing this song to my kid, or I just gave birth and I sing this to my baby. I'm like, just crying. I was like, enough. So I wanted to write something specifically for parents to sing to their keiki, and my sister just gave birth to my nephew last year. And so I was like, oh, I want to write something for my sister and her boyfriend Cody to sing to their son Kala'au. And it's like, it's so funny because when he hears Pikake and Until the End of Time, you're just like, I just love that you can see it resonating within him.
There's a soul tie to it.
Yeah, and he's in the song too at the end.
That's the voice we heard, the Leo Pepe. We're like, oh, cute.
Yeah, but the chorus for the song was actually inspired by I surround myself with a lot of women in my life. I was raised by my grandmother, my mother. I have 2 sisters, so I've always been around women. I feel the most comfortable around women, and because of that, I have friends who have shared their experiences with me about miscarriages, and so I just specifically, one of my friends was going through that while I was in Aotearoa, and so the chorus of Until the End of Time is actually for people who have carried the spirit or the soul of a baby but weren't able to hanao. And so I wanted to have that as a reminder for them that even though you didn't give birth, the spirit of that baby still walks with you until the end of time. Yeah. Ooh.
I know.
Crying.
Yeah. You're manifesting.
Cut the cameras.
You're manifesting her.
Like, give me the leaf. Chew on the leaf.
The La'o is here.
No, so I wrote that for her, and I built the whole song around that. That including all people who are parents. And then, you know, the bridge of the song, I had in mind my friends who have expressed to me their struggles with, you know, their parents and how they feel like they wish they would have heard certain things from their parents. So the bridge of the song is, if you wander too far from the water, you can always come back home. And if you're ever cold and lonely, there is shelter in my arms. So I wanted that to be something for people who maybe don't have that relationship with their parents, to have that reminder, or just have somebody say it so that they can hear it, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So your mele truly is la'o lapa'o in a sense.
I mean, it's always been that for me. That's where music started for me. I had a really, really traumatic relationship with religion. And I think that if my cousin never gave me my first guitar, I don't know if I would have been here today. Because there was so much that I needed to get out to hear myself say.
Oh, Pisces.
I know, I'm trying to be like tough and be like, oh! But I'm actually not. I'm a huge crybaby.
You're a teddy bear, yes.
But yeah, if my cousin never gave me my first guitar, and if I never learned how to just listen to the messages that I was receiving and let it pour out, that my songwriting was for me in the beginning. I would record it, and then I would, anytime I had catch the bus or whatever, wherever I had to go, I would listen to myself sing the songs that I wrote, because it felt like somebody else singing the songs to me. And so that's where the beginning of my journey with songwriting started. And so because I was able to offer myself that, I now know how to offer that to other people. And so that's why, like, I would love to do big shows and like stadium shows and stuff, but I love the small intimate stuff, because like even on that Friday night at Kaimana Beach Hotel, when I'm singing and I'm looking straight into your eyes, I love that. I love being able to sing to you folks, and like it was such an honor to look into the crowd and sing to you, like, and I love making those connections like that, because I know that it makes me feel like my purpose is being fulfilled by offering that medicine to people in that way, and it's kind of like a reassuring myself that like it is reaching people and it is making a connection and it is resonating.
You feel the soul surgery very in intimate spaces.
Not only that, people were singing back to you too.
Yeah.
It was over.
That was crazy.
That was so
Ue
cool.
Ue Kalani.
Ue Kalani. Ue Kalani.
Ola Kahaus. Amnesia. Well, Izik, can you finish us off in our season with your wonderful mele?
I would love to, after I just started crying. I would love to just start singing.
Here we are.
No, I would love that. No, yeah.
Sound of music.
No,
here we are.
Okay, let me
Gather, yes.
Okay. Your smile so bright. I see the sunrise in your shimmering eyes. The rarest shade of blue. I feel the deepest kind of love whenever I hold you. My love will stand tall, even when your footsteps are being small. And I know as you grow, time will feel like it's slipping, moving faster than we know. And I will walk with you until the end of time. And I will walk with you until the end of. I'll lift you up. Young or old, you'll always have my strength to push on. If you choose north or south, oh, east or west, you know, you'll always have me around. And I will walk with you until the end of time. And I will walk with you until the end of time. And if you wandered too far from the water, you can always come back home. And if you're ever cold and lonely, there is shelter in my arms. I will be with you until the end. And I will walk with you until the end of time. And I will walk with you until the end of time. And a time. End of time. Oh, end of time. End of time.
Mahalo nui. You make me cry over here,
I
Mary.
know, it's just ue kalani. Mahalo.
Mahalo
Love
for
you.
having us.
Mahalo
I mean, for being on our show, not for having us. Yeah, mahalo for having us.
Aku, have money.
having.
Having.
I can't even picture.
Mahalo.
Mahalo nui.
Love you, folks.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
And this is Kūkā Kīkī.
Eh.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.